This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On today's episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Kai from Frozenbyte, and we're going to be talking about their latest game, Has Been Heroes. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Weekly. With me today is Kai from Frozenbyte. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Frozenbyte just released a game called Has Been Heroes, and I think it is doing pretty well. What do you think, Kai?
Yeah, it's doing quite well. I mean, users are liking the game. We're hearing a lot of good feedback from the users. It's a bit of a mixed bag from reviewers, though, which kind of is a bit of a weird situation that there's such a divide between what the users think and what the reviewers think. But it's a game that takes a little time to get used to and get into the game. So I can see where they're coming from.
So, what for those that don't know what Has Been Heroes is, what is the game about?
Well, it's like a roguelike game of strategy and action and all these weird little elements mixed together. In its like core, it's a very challenging game where you play as three heroes, and it's like a lane-based game where a lot of undead enemies are coming at you on all the different lanes, and you're using things like melee attacks, spells, and swapping the different characters between the lanes, and sort of just coordinating your different abilities that the characters have in order to destroy your opposition. And then you're just gathering items, gathering spells, all kinds of things that are randomized in the game, and then just making your characters more powerful and defeating bosses and so on. So yeah, that's kind of gameplay-wise what the game is about. And then the story-wise, it's about as the name implies, it's about a group of has-been heroes, heroes that used to be pretty legendary, slaying things like dragons, witches, and all kinds of threats to the kingdom, but they slowly just retired and became obsolete or just old. And then they get the final quest from that king, which is to escort his daughters to school. So it's kind of a humoristic setting to make up for the grueling difficulty of the actual game. Yeah.
Do you feel the game is actually pretty difficult?
Sort of. It gets pretty challenging towards the later stages for me, myself at least. I can see where a lot of new players would think it's very difficult as well. It doesn't really forgive you for your mistakes, and you learn by dying, basically.
So the Dark Souls approach.
Yeah, pretty much. There's like the first boss can be this guy that summons these shadows, and the trick with that boss is not to get hit a single time. If the boss hits one of your characters, like the weakest one, it just insta kills you with like 3 hits. So you learn by dying.
So you have to really be on your toes when you go against that boss.
Yeah. And yeah, you can die in the first fight if you're not careful.
So when you said that it's lane-based, do you mean is it similar to like, do you actually move the characters around, or is it more of like the characters stay put and they're attacking like what's in front of them?
They attack, like when you do an attack on like one character, let's say the top lane, he attacks only on that lane, but then after a character has made an attack, you can swap another character into that lane, and then even swap a third time or a fourth time, just to make the characters have a perfect position for the follow-up attacks that you're looking for in the game. Like a key mechanic, what you're trying to look at in Has Been Heroes is the enemy's stamina, and that's kind of like a block or a parry kind of mechanic, that they have these green little squares next to them, and as a player you're looking out at what's coming on the different lanes, how many points of stamina the enemies have, and then thinking about looking at each of your characters, like how many hits do they do to match the enemy's stamina. So let's say you have a monk that hits twice, and there's an enemy that has 2 stamina. If you hit an enemy with 2 stamina with the character that does 2 hits, it'll stun the enemy, and then you'll be able to swap in another character to do like full damage to their health. But if you hit over the stamina, the enemy just flies back a little bit, and the hit that went over the stamina does less damage than if the enemy would have been stunned at first. It's kind of a weird thing to explain before somebody's played the game, but yeah, it's very like people have called it like similar to Tetris in that sense, that you're looking at how many points of attacks you have and then trying to match that with the blocks that the enemies have.
So is it kind of like a Plants vs Zombies approach, where like you have to fight off the enemies before they get to you, or are the enemies going to stay in place and you're just having to figure out what's the best way of getting rid of those enemies?
If the enemies get to you, like right next to you, they'll hit you and you'll kill you. So yeah, you have to get rid of them. Your characters also have the stamina blocks. So if the enemy swings once and you have 1 stamina, you don't take damage to your health. But then the next hits will damage your health, and if even one of your characters dies, it's going to be game over. So yeah, it's definitely not the case that you could just chill and let the enemies dance around on the screen. You have to get rid of them as fast as possible.
So about the critic response to the game as well, do you feel like a lot of critics that played the game were more of like, I guess, impatient with the game?
Yeah, that could explain quite a bit of it. I mean, they've been saying things like it's very luck dependent, like what spells you get and what items you get, and how far you can advance based on those things. I didn't really get the feeling that a lot of them played very far in the game. Maybe some of them did, maybe some didn't. But yeah, it's like this thing that's saying that the first boss can just kill you if you don't have the right spells. Like that's simply not true. I mean, if you're a skilled player, you can beat the first boss easily without any upgrades, any spells. Just the starting spells and skills of your characters are easily enough for the first and the second boss as well.
This is Frozenbyte's first roguelike game too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, because the games that you guys were making before, like Trine, where it was more of like a platformer puzzle kind of game, what made you guys want to go into the direction of making a roguelike game?
Well, that's like we have a few teams at Frozenbyte, and this was like initially a smaller team, and we kind of like right now we're letting people develop sort of initial concepts in smaller teams at first, and yeah, this started out like a couple of years ago. We had a small team that wanted to make something really challenging for players, and the lead designer has been a huge fan of roguelike games. Has in the past and still is, and yeah, that's like the biggest inspiration of how they came to make a roguelike instead of something that Frozenbyte is known for usually. So yeah, a couple of years ago, we prototyped this thing and really nailed down some cool mechanics that got the team hooked on the gameplay from like a very early stage, and yeah, that's how kind of this game came to life.
How do you make a game like a roguelike game interesting? Like, how do you keep, because it's always a game where you get so far into a game and then you die and you lose everything. How do you get people to come back again? Like, hey, I know you just died, I know you just made a lot of progress, but play again.
Well, I think the unlocks play a big role. In this game, the more you die and the more you kind of defeat bosses, you, first of all, each time you defeat a boss, you unlock a new character you can start out with. And then the pool of items, spells, regions, enemies, everything grows the more you play. So it becomes more randomized, and you get to see a lot of cool new stuff based on your progress. And also, although the game has permadeath, there's like a progression based on the length of the runs that you make. So the first time you play the game, you complete it after getting past 2 regions and defeating the boss at the end of the second region. So that's kind of the main adversary, the ghoul guy. The people calling him the ghost pirate or something like that. So the first one is 2 regions. When you defeat that, the next time your run is 3. Defeat the 3 run region, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, and final one is on 8 regions. So if you've come to the, like, let's say 7th region run and you die, you start from the beginning, but your run is always going to be 7 regions long. So you're kind of making progress even though it has permadeath.
So it always feels like you're earning something. So like when you're done, you're like, okay, cool. I didn't just completely lose everything, because it's very similar to another game that I was playing before. It was the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, and it was weird because like I would just keep going through the same things, and something about it was just like, all right, I'm gonna keep going, because I guess you always feel like you're learning something when you play a roguelike game. You do bad, and then you're like, I understand why I did bad, and you get something out of it. So Has Been Heroes is available on just about every single platform, except for like the 3DS and Vita, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's out on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
So it's one of the few indie game titles too that actually has like a box release for it, because you guys worked with Game Trust, who do like the boxes and stuff for indie developers. How did you guys get that whole thing going?
Well, that started like sometime early last year or a bit before that. The Game Trust guys were just in touch with us, and I wanted to see what we're up to, what kind of games we were developing, and we showed them Has Been Heroes, let them try an early build of the game, and they just sort of fell in love with the game and how it played out. So that's kind of how we got in touch with them. How it all started.
So why would you guys want a boxed version of the game?
Well, besides it being cool that you have like a physical copy of your own game, retail is something that we haven't done before, and I guess it's still pretty big for games. So yeah.
It's just nice to have a box. Hey, I mean, that's that's why I bought the Binding of Isaac. I was like, oh, cool, a box, and it has a manual. Does it have a manual in the box?
No, just the game.
Just the game. I know this is totally off topic, but every time I've busted out my Switch, the number one question I get is, have you tasted the cartridge? So Kai, have you tasted the cartridge?
No, actually, I have not tasted it, but I've heard a lot of things about it, so maybe I should join in on this fad and have a taste.
I mean,
I wonder if they all taste the same, or if there's like a difference. Have you tasted different ones?
Yeah. Maybe there's like a hint of a different flavor in there somewhere. Oh, this one has a little bit of a grape stinging sensation to it, but this one has a more cherry stinging sensation to it.
Yeah.
So that's how you get closer to your games, is when you can actually physically taste them.
Yeah.
I think it was Gabe Newell who said, when Half-Life came out, I instantly opened the box and licked the disc. That didn't happen. He didn't say that. Maybe he did. I don't know. So, do you prefer? Okay, so if I were to get Has Been Heroes, what system do you feel like it's the best to get it for, and why?
Well, I'll start out by saying it's the same gameplay wise on all the different platforms. So if you're looking to, if it seems like an interesting game, I would get in on the console that you prefer yourself. But if, like personally, I prefer it on the Switch, just because you can take the Switch on the go, and this game really, it just works really good on the portable mode. In addition to having it hooked onto your TV, yeah, it plays really nicely in like short bursts when you're traveling to work or at work on your breaks. So yeah, I also play like when I play on my PC and play other games like multiplayer games, and then in between when I die or something, I just take the Switch and continue where I left off. So yeah.
Is there multiplayer for Has Been Heroes?
No, it's just single player.
Okay. What else was there? Oh, real quick, because I don't want to forget this. Do you have any info on anything Trine related coming to the Switch by any hint, nudge, nudge?
Not really. I mean, we're gonna do some stuff for the Switch in the future, even after Has Been Heroes. But I think at first it's gonna be some new games before we do anything with the Trine games. I mean, ports are always nice, but even for players, I think they'd hope to get some new games first, and then I don't know. That's kind of how I feel as well. And then ports of older games, even though they seem like it would be pretty easy to do, it's always like taking somebody who would be useful to another project and then putting them into that port. So probably not right away, at least. We'll see in like sometime in the future if the Trine parts would make sense.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, there's a chance.
Fantastic. For my final question, do you have any advice for people out there that are playing Has Been Heroes and are dying constantly?
Yeah, a couple of ones. First of all, match your hits with the enemy stamina. Stun them. Don't use the monk to do damage. Use the warrior or the rogue. Also, read the spell descriptions very carefully. Think about what the description means. And yeah, there's a lot of little tricks that you can do when you read the spell descriptions properly. I've seen a lot of people look at these spells and it doesn't really do anything and use the spells completely wrong, or then haven't realized the full potential of some spell that might seem pretty like lackluster, but actually when used in the correct way, the spells can be a lot better. So yeah, those are my 2 tips, or maybe that was 3 for a few ones anyway.
Final tip: get good.
Yeah.
Kai, thank you so much for coming onto the show and talk to me about Has Been Heroes. And if you guys want to check out Has Been Heroes, you can get it for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. So grab that physical release because, yes, it is nice to have a box for the games that you own. So the game is $20 across all platforms. And despite what critics say, the game's cool, so you should check it out. So why listen to critics? Listen to yourself. You're your own person.
Yeah, thanks.
And also check out Trine on the other systems as well. That's a really awesome game too, and great to play with people, no matter if they are good or bad at games. Let's see, what else? Just to get everything wrapped up, check us out on SoundCloud and YouTube as well. Everything's still getting transferred over there, but if 100 people subscribe to the YouTube channel, I can actually change the URL, so it's a lot easier to get people. So I'm not begging for subscribers, but I'm begging for subscribers. So help me to help you, as Dr. Kosk from Scrubs once said, and check it out on Google Play, iTunes, and everything else. If you like the show, like the episode, share it with people, and if enough people listen to it, that's cool for me. It's always it's always nice to see that people are listening. So Kai, once again, thank you so much for coming onto the show, buy the game, And if you don't, you're missing out on a truly great experience. Thank you guys so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thanks.